So when I was growing up, just the way, things were back in the 90s and early 2000s, going to therapy, taking medication, it was a moral failing as opposed to a way to get help to have a better quality of life, which is how I look at it now. My name is Ariel. I live in Boston, not far from here. Currently, I am graduating from business school, and for a living, I used to work for Shengqi.com, a Chinese chess company, and I'm about to start working at another tech company called Boomi. I paint, I read, I exercise regularly, and I write a lot. I write about all sorts of things. Sometimes it's random stuff like the future of online dating, or the life lessons we can learn from Coco, the movie. Or it could be how to ace the product management interview, which is one I'm working on right now. I was diagnosed only recently, back in 2020, but I would say I've been experiencing symptoms since I was 14. I am so much happier now. It's been almost 2 years since I've had my last depressive episode. And the beauty about being bipolar 2 is that the medications you're on, it's a lot easier to manage the highs. So I have a very disciplined sleep schedule. I exercise every day. I maintain a balanced diet. And all these things really help me manage it and prevent the highs from getting super manic. Because the dangerous thing is that the more manic episodes you have, the worse they get, which is a very strong motivation to maintain that level of discipline. Prior to treatment, I feel like I was living my life at what I thought was 90%, but what I would now consider more like 40%. And where I'm at now is 90%. Where I thought I was at, the ceiling was so much lower. And now I'm like, wow, the world is much nicer. And this is how most people must experience the world. Not being so depressed that you can't get out of bed for 5 hours. Not feeling so wired that you're up until 4 o'clock in the morning, multiple nights in a row, and then crashing and going back to that. The only thing I can do is stay in bed and watch Netflix for hours. Structure is probably the thing that helps me the most. Having a consistent bed and wake up time, so important. Because if you have those bookmarks on your day, it's very easy to see when you're passing your bedtime or when you're waking up earlier than your expected wake up time or later. So that structure helps with the sort of monitoring aspect. And then number 2 is being okay with accepting help through medication. I think there's still a lot of stigma. I think people I've talked to are like, I don't need it. I have the superpower of being able to manage it. But, I went through that for 16 years. And I can say on the other side that life is so much better now that I'm not muscling through it by myself. Before medication, the way I had that self-acceptance was by thinking it was somewhat within my control. I could make myself better. And then in the process of the diagnosis, which basically started at the beginning of my business school, when I had a new psychiatrist. I just came to Boston, and it was a really challenging moment of transition. So perfect crucible to see what my behavior is like when I don't have that equilibrium. During that whole process of diagnosis, there was a point where I just realized there is absolutely no amount of willpower that will allow me to have that equilibrium consistently, because I was able to achieve it, and I thought, because this was what I wanted to believe, that I had willed it to happen using my discipline and like good habits. And I learned that all of those things are good things, and they're things that I still really love about myself. But medication just makes it so much easier. Essentially, like, I would achieve this equilibrium. I'd be, moving along the river, perfectly balanced, and then this big wind would like tip me over. And now I think about all this stuff as, so before I was walking along a knife's edge between manic and depressed. And what medication did is it made it much wider. So it wasn't an edge, it was more like a street. I would have these friends who were trying to be really good friends, but I would be fully ready to go, super excited about going to this party. With a friend, we were supposed to walk over together, all dressed, putting on my makeup, and then suddenly I would get this like feeling of just hopelessness and this weight that would just, it was like everything was melting into a puddle, and that I, like fully clothed, would just gradually walk, barely walk, kind of half sobbing into my bed, climb into bed. And I would text my friend being like, I can't make it to this party. And contrast that with now, where first of all, I don't have these like sort of surprise depressive episodes. And then second, I'm able to anticipate when I'm going to be able to go out and when not. I mean, it can't be understated how amazing it is to not have those random depressive episodes. It's just, I don't know, life is just so much better. And I still get the benefits of those highs without becoming like out of control, impulsive or irritable. So, I feel like most days are good days, and when I'm having a bad day, it's for a very easily identifiable reason. In terms of, traditional success, these are things I probably would have been able to do before. I have a job, I finished business school, I got second-year honors, like all these great things, but at the end of the day, life is about, what makes life worth living is the relationships that we build with ourselves, with others, with our communities, with nature. And that's where I feel like I've been able to grow the most. I would say to my 18-year-old self, do the things that you love, that you're good at, and that just flow. And not only with academics, which is where I was focused as an 18-year-old, but also with people. The number one thing I'd say I learned in the last few years is, and maybe this came from clarity from not drinking, but when you're at a party and there's dancing, and there are the people who are really anxious, don't really feel comfortable dancing, and you want to dance, but you're absorbing some of the discomfort of the people around you. And then you have those people who are a little quirky, and they're having a great time dancing. They're just shameless in the middle of the dance floor. And so that's what I mean by feel the things that you're good at and that you enjoy. Because when I transitioned from wanting to be in a specific group to wanting to be myself and be comfortable, I love dancing. And the moment that I embraced that sort of fear of loneliness and just threw the fear of loneliness out and embraced that wanting to dance, life is so much better.